Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Welcome everybody to the Dukes of Gaming. It's good to be back with you this week. I am your host, Thomas, the Duke of Anime. It's good to be here, joined by two of my other fellow Dukes. We're down 2 Dukes, thoughts and prayers, wherever they are right now. But we have 2 Dukes here, along with me. First and foremost, we have the Duke of Duke of Design. Education's out. The Duke of Design here. We have Ben. How are you this week, man?
How dare you?
You don't like education?
You're just having me encroach into Alfredo's domain.
You got a lot of books there that not like education.
Yeah. Those are just for me as self-education.
There we go. Self-education. There we go. How you doing this week?
Doing very well. Missing our lost in action Dukes right now, but very happy to be chatting with you guys. And damn, I'm still super into Elden Ring right now, so we got to talk about that more.
Great game to be into. And I think we have another Duke that's into Elden Ring as well. We have the Duke of Rocket League. How are you doing, Cole?
Doing good. I'm into Elden Ring. I rank it as one of my favorite games of all time.
Wow.
I haven't played much this week. It's been a tough week, but I'm getting back. I'm gonna get back to it tomorrow night, probably. I'm excited about that.
This is the first podcast me and you have been together since Elden Ring has dropped, I believe.
Yeah, so I do have to say,
I think for me and Ben too. I think me and
it is
selling.
Ben. It's selling gangbusters. So we're on our way to that 25 million that I was talking about.
It's doing well. Look, I wish it all the best. I know I've come off as the Elden Ring hater. I know, but I want to do well.
You played that one time with me.
I played that one time and I've watched a friend play it. And if you want my just initial thoughts on how I feel about it, it looks like it's a very, very great experience. It's a really good step forward for the open world genre. It didn't have what I wanted it to have, which was really, really good lore. That's the main reason why I wanted that game. Because you get George R.R. Martin there, I'm expecting okay, we're gonna get a really step up in quality and lore. And from what I've seen and heard, that has not really been talked about.
I think it is. I think it is better. I think the lore is better than the Dark Souls games. But it's.
I'm just saying when I saw reviews,
yeah,
when I saw reviews, I didn't see anything about that.
Well, do you storytelling? You think you mean more? I think you mean more storytelling, right?
Yeah.
But because the lore always seems to be there in Dark Souls. It's the storytelling that lacks.
Yeah, I mean,
like the traditional storytelling.
Yeah, I thought it was going to go a different way than just being Dark Souls 4 open world. And it seems like the way the story is being told is very Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Instead of more Sekiro, which I thought that's the direction they were heading into in terms of maybe not Sekiro, as far as you can pause the game and it's really focused on the story as well. I thought it'd be more of that than what we got. But I'm probably going to play it at some point. I really do think it's a really great advancement for open world games.
I think the story is presented to you more directly than the Dark Souls games are, but it's still not very much compared to a story driven game.
Respect. So that's what you all have been playing for the most part.
Yeah, I've been playing Cyberpunk too.
How you liking that?
I'm enjoying it. There's a lot that I'm kind of like that's rubbing me the wrong way, especially with the combat. It might just be because I've tried to spec into a stealth build, but I'm not like particularly good at stealth in the game.
I just to get this out of the way for me, stealth in Cyberpunk is horrible. Like it's horrible. I really did try to do that, and I just restarted characters because it's the way it's implemented. Like you can kind of go stealth just doing the like little contagion hacking, but besides that, like all the other stealth stuff seems woefully undercooked.
Yeah, it's kind of rough, and I keep like looking. I keep going to Ripper Docs and like looking in the upgrade tree for upgrades that will make me better at stealth. Like being able to go invisible for a couple seconds, or like just better distractions, that kind of thing. And there's nothing that is like, oh yeah, this is the thing that I needed to unlock stealth in Cyberpunk. So I'm not confident that I can turn it around. Maybe I just have to respec, like you're saying, and just invest in different skills.
And I will say, I don't know what's changed as far as stealth goes, because I did stealth for maybe my first 2 hours when I first started the game back in a year ago. So I don't know if anything has changed with the update.
There are some changes. One of the biggest things is that you can throw knives much more effectively. So like you can
I've seen
knife throwing is a much more viable play style, which means like if you can hit headshots, you can stealth kill from range pretty easily. But it is very unclear when your headshot is going to actually result in the person dying, or when it's just gonna do most, like it's gonna damage them mostly, but then alert everybody. And that's like, if you hit somebody in the head with a knife and it doesn't kill them, that's the end of your stealth run.
See, and base knows. I like the throwing knives as in addition to the combat. And see, that's the one thing I love about Cyberpunk. The combat, when you're just going straight up, if you have the right build, it can feel very satisfying.
Yeah.
Like it feels like an anime Cyberpunk game come to life when you're playing that way. It's just unfortunate that for people who want to do a stealth build, which you should be able to do, it's the fact that they obviously didn't put too much care into that aspect of it. But
yeah, I might have to look into respecking.
Yeah, glad you're liking it though. I love the game a lot, so I was glad that we got another fan on board. And then Cole, did you have a chance to play Cyberpunk at all?
Not yet. I played the launch version for like 15 hours, and then I returned it when PlayStation allowed us to pick it up. I'm gonna pick it up after GTA Online comes out, or whenever we're gonna do the Ben's Book Club. I'll pick it up like that month. So probably April. Beginning.
I was about to say you gotta pick it up 2023. play GTA to completion.
I'm done. I'm glad the first half of the year was the first like 2 months were great.
Yeah, man. But that's good to hear about Cyberpunk. I'm probably gonna get back into it. I put about maybe 2 hours in after the update just to see how everything was, and I was pleasantly surprised of everything you could do, especially with changing your appearance. That was one thing I just never understood. How is there no barbershops here? How is there are dildos all over the place. There's lights all over the place, their cars all over the place, but we can't have a barbershop. I can't change the appearance. So there's no plastic surgeons even. So I'm glad they were allowed you to do that through your mirror. I appreciate that. Should have been in the game in the first place, but there's a lot of things that should have been there.
How are the graphics? Are the graphics like the best? Would you say they're the best ever?
It look best ever. No,
I mean,
I will get to the game with the best graphics ever in a second.
Horizon.
But Cyberpunk, it looks fine. It looks good. I think it's a noticeable improvement. The ray tracing mode is horrible. It runs
there's some areas
for me
in the beginning that were unbelievable, like the lighting and everything.
To me, it looked good, like how a Switch game can look good, where it's like, yeah, it looks good. Like the art style is there, but I remember like this is not like a PS5 game when it first launched.
Yeah, it's a good looking game, but I think I kind of think about it the same way I think about Elden Ring, where like the art style is fantastic. You know, it's a well put together game visually, but it is not a particularly graphically pretty game, and the console version, even the next gen version, does not hold a candle to the PC version, because the PC version with ray tracing, that is an immaculate looking game. That is you know, Cyberpunk 2077 with full ray tracing is an incredible looking game.
Playing that on my friend's rig, his $5,000 something rig, yes, that thing looked crazy. Like it looked absolutely insane, just like walking through the streets at night with all the lights. Yeah, it looks incredible. The console version was never going to get to that, but I think this update has shown me that they have put a good effort in at the very least. It's not exactly No Man's Sky. It's not there yet, and who knows if it will ever get there. But I think they're, for the first time since release, trending in the right direction. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Fair. And so you've been playing Cyberpunk. I've been playing Horizon, which is, like I said, the best looking game I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe how good this game is for me. I know Alfredo talked about it last week of how much he liked it. Where's Alfredo? No, 2 weeks ago, Alfredo said that. And I agreed with him. It was great, but I wasn't in love with it at that point. I just really liked it. Rolling credits, I got to say, this is one of my favorite PlayStation experiences. I think I'd have to put it comfortably at like my top 4 favorite PlayStation games I've ever played. Wow. It's, you know, I can't think of a weak spot. Like that's the main thing for me. Like I really try to think of like what could be improved. And like when I get into it, it's all nitpicking things. The core fundamentals of the game, from the open world to the combat to the story to the lore, I think everything is there. And I'm so and I get, the Elden Ring Horizon comparisons. They're both doing such different things that for me it's even hard to compare those two games. I think they're both masterclasses in what they direction they went in. And while Horizon, I feel, is a more traditional Ubisoft style, like, open world checkbox experience, to me it's the best that type of game has ever been. It's a game that has looked at how all the other games that have been in that genre, including the first Horizon, it's taken all the lessons from that and applied them. There's never a dull moment. I played it for about 60 hours, and I know a game's good when I'm playing, and I'm like, I know how many missions it takes to complete the main story, but I got to do these side quests. I got to get these side quests in. Like I'm invested in these individual stories in the side quest. And so, yeah, this is, as of right now, my game of the year. It's the best open world RPG I've played since Witcher 3.
Last time you talked about it, you were positive about it. You were enjoying it, but you were not over the moon about it. And I recall you saying something akin to like, it's more Horizon.
That changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What not only what changed it so that it was more like a sequel for you, because we talked about that there is a moment in which the game kind of opens up a bit, but what was there a moment that elevated it, or a series of moments that elevated it
Yes.
for you into the stratosphere here?
Yes. The main thing that elevated it for me was the direction that the story took. And by story, I mean the main narrative and also the quality of side quests.
Yeah.
Where
That's good to hear, because I've said this before. One of my favorite things about the first Horizon, even though it's a solid open world game, one of my favorite things about it was the main narrative.
Oh, I agree. It was incredible. It's the best PlayStation narrative, I think. Well, let's just say Last of Us. I really liked Last of Us too. But to me,
I
it's
would say
second best
Last
time
of Us and
2.
Horizon to me fight for number one, like Zero Dawn.
Yeah. I
Those
was shocked at how much I love that narrative.
Me too. I love that narrative so much. I read the comics. Like I
So this
love
doesn't
that
beat
world.
this doesn't beat Horizon Zero Dawn for you.
Story wise, no.
Okay.
Because there's just like, to me, there's a novelty in when I learned what was going on in that game.
Yeah.
I was taken aback because I was like, I did not expect the story to head in that direction at all.
Right.
This game has a lot of moments like that as well, just none that land like that initial. I don't want to spoil Zero Dawn too much, but that initial, when you realize what Aloy is, that revelation to me I was like, okay, this is a different type of story in a video game. You don't usually get stories of this quality.
I agree with you on everything. I was 30 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. Like
story-wise,
yeah, I was at the moment when you're going and collecting the different, not to be a spoilers, things that you have to get when it opens up.
The three things.
The three. I was in. I had already done one or two of those. I think two of those.
And see, that's when the game completely opens up in my mind, because
I agree.
When you get those three, it honestly works a little bit like how Breath of the Wild worked, which I was very shocked by. I didn't know they would do something like that, where it's like Breath of the Wild, like, all right, you can go face Ganon, or you can get these 4 guardians. I forgot what they're called. This game is not, you have to collect them. There's no like skipping to the end. You have to collect these 3 things. But the stories that came along with getting those 3 things, and the fact that you can do them in any order, opened it up for me, where I'm completing like most of one of them, and then I get to a certain point where it's like, okay, you can finish this one up, or you can go to another one. I'm like, oh, I didn't expect to be able to just go to a different level of divine beast. There we go. I'll say guardians, but yeah, I didn't expect to be able to go to a different area of the story right now. I thought I was trapped into the, just doing, because in open worlds, when you're doing a mission, it'll be, all right, you're locked to this quest till the end of the quest. It was like giving you a lot of freedom, and I wasn't really expecting that. And then the way I did it just felt really good to me story wise, being able to get a lot of the side quests done as well. I really liked how because I feel like there is like a formula to it, where it doesn't feel like you're getting too much at one time, but you're getting just enough. To me, it hit that all the way.
Honestly, it just sucks that I consider these 3 games came out at the same time: Witch Queen, Elden Ring, and Horizon, because I was having a blast with every one of them. Like I was having a blast. Like we were, all of us, like 4 out of the 5 of the Dukes were playing the crap out of Destiny and enjoying and like seriously having a blast every night. Then
I'm getting on it this week. I
know.
Yeah, we still gotta finish the Witch Queen campaign.
I know we do.
I'm finishing it this week. I started the first couple missions, but yeah, I'm getting head deep into this.
Are you playing on legendary difficulty?
That's the funnest.
That was whooping my ass
fun.
solo. So I'm gonna need some Duke assistance for sure.
Definitely. That was a blast. I love doing that. I didn't think I would like it. Actually, Ben and Alfredo talked me into doing it. Actually, Alfredo was really adamant about doing it at the beginning. And I usually just kind of want to blast through it, but that really made each campaign mission feel like a dungeon, which was cool. But yeah, then Horizon comes out. I'm having a blast with Horizon, and then Elden Ring comes out, and I have not looked back at either one of those games.
Well, when a lot of games come out at the same time,
but not at this pace, y'all. Then we got Cyberpunk and GTA. We got Cyberpunk, GTA, Elden Ring. Like this year blows 2021 out of the water. like these past like 20 days.
Yeah, it's nuts. It is a little nuts, like how much concentrated good releases we're getting right now.
Yeah.
And I
we all
wonder.
we skipped Pokemon besides
I've actually been playing that. I've actually been playing. Once I
Yeah.
put down Horizon, I was like, you know what? I have this. Let me pop it in. It's
crazy,
honestly,
dude.
it's honestly just on. I'm not saying it's on the same level as Elden Ring or Horizon, but that game does some very interesting things I haven't seen a game do. So yeah, you're right. There's been, at minimum, you're saying 3 great, like really like industry defining open world RPGs. You know, because Pokemon's innovating in Pokemon ways. Elden Ring's innovating in, in just open world, just what you can do in an open world. Like I feel like you guys probably speak to it more. Does Elden Ring feel like a game that is going to inspire other games in the future?
Yeah.
I think what it does is it cements the fact that, like, for whatever reason, it was glossed over with Breath of the Wild. No one else attempted to do this. Go out, no icons, and we talked about it a lot last week. But go out and explore, and no games copied that. No one did.
One did.
What
This game called Sable.
Sable?
There's been a few. There's been a few, and I
Yeah,
mean, there was that
been a
one
Breath of the Wild
Ubisoft game.
No,
that was basically Breath of the Wild.
That one was
Collectathon.
Breath of the Wild in terms of climbing and
but
combat.
it wasn't.
But it was
the
a lot of
exploration.
there was a lot of icons on that screen. I remember trying to play that game, Immortal Phoenix Friday.
Immortal Phoenix Rising. Yeah,
yeah. I tried to
It was
play that. I
fun.
was like,
It was a
oh,
fun
this
game.
is. I'm glad you thought so.
It was fun. I played it for about 3 hours, but it was fun.
Okay. I played for 3 hours too. Okay. I thought you beat it or something.
No, God, no. I put it down after 3 hours. But it was fun.
I think try Sable. Sable's on Game Pass. It is very Breath of the Wild like in terms of there's not a lot going on, but it's an open world you can go through.
I think they'll kind of start turning their heads, and it cements the fact that, hey, let's trust the gamers more. Let's let them explore. Let's let them find things.
I guess the one thing about Elden Ring that I don't quite understand is the gatekeeping about the difficulty from the fans of Elden Ring and from software games. Because I'm playing Horizon, and I'm not saying, look, this is just me. This is just, me, not a big fan of these games, appreciate them. But I'm playing Horizon, and I can adjust the difficulty. This is one of the main reasons why I love the game. Like, you can adjust the difficulty in the exact way you want, where I can turn off all notifications, all item icons, everything, have it just look like a straight 3D movie. Turn off like the little numbers you see when you hit a machine and it tells you, like, I turn all that off, but then I turn everything else up. I turn all the difficulties up, make it the hardest game possible. And it's very hard. It can get very hard. I'm like, I like the fact that I can tailor this to what I want to play. And when you mention that to somebody who likes from software games, it's like, no, it should be like director's intent. It should be, I'm like, I don't agree with that. Like, I just don't agree with that. Like, I get it. I understand it, but it's a video game. Like, I should be able to tailor this to how I want to play it.
Ben, what do you think about
that? I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that is generally a good practice in games. I also don't think that it is something that all games need to have. And I see the benefits of not having selectable difficulty. If you give players too much, I forget what exactly or who this quote is attributed to, but it might be Sid Meier.
That's who made Civilization, right?
Civilization, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he said, if you let them, players will optimize the fun out of everything.
Yes, yeah.
To where you're making the experience as streamlined as possible to the detriment of the experience.
I perfectly worded.
And you can still do that in Souls games. You can still do that. Anytime you ever see someone talking about farming souls, they are optimizing the experience to the detriment of it, because they're not playing in a way that's actually fun. They're playing in a way that allows them to, min max and that's not to minimize like other kind of metagame type things like speedrunning, where there's certainly a level of fun and achievement to seeing how you can test the limits of the game and break it in certain ways to manipulate it to that extent. But I'm talking about like when someone is just going out of their way to make the game less fun, or less interesting of an experience, less impactful of an experience, for the sake of being able to get through it quicker, or for the sake of not having to kind of grapple with the experience that is intended. It is way too easy to do that in most games. For the most part, many people will criticize this type of thing, where your difficulty slider is basically just like making the enemies more bullet spongy. That's not a good way to do difficulty. Similarly, it's not a good way to do difficulty by sapping out all challenge from the game. Because if you don't have challenge, you have less engagement. Challenge is a way to engage players, right? And that's actually, I think Miyazaki is quoted as saying the difficulty in these Souls games, or the difficulty as part of Demon Souls, the first game in the series, the intent with that was not to punish players. The intent was not to be the hardest game ever. The intent was to immerse people in the experience. Because when anything can kill you, can come out from behind a corner and stab you in the back, you are paying more attention to what's going on. When any door can hold an item that's going to change the course of your play for the next hour, you are looking behind more doors. You're grappling with the experience to a deeper extent. I don't see how you add in an easy mode, or sliders to the game where you can tune the experience to what you want, without opening up the possibility for people to optimize the fun out of their experience.
Well, it takes away all the weight behind everything. You no longer feel that sense of, oh, I have 10,000 blood echoes. Do I go through this next door and see what's behind it, or do I go all the way back and turn them in, or do I take that next turn? When literally anything can kill you. Those games, like, you could go through this. I could go the same path several times, and I'll have one misstep, and I'm dead by some enemies that I was just destroying before.
It's like I get what you're saying per se, but it seems like these are the only games that we give this credence to. Like, most other games have difficulty sliders. Like, the vast majority of them have difficulty sliders. But I guess their choice and everything. I'm just saying, for me, I prefer if there was at least an option. And obviously the main mode would be the main mode, but most games have this implemented. And I feel like From games get kind of a break because that's what they're known for, as opposed to, just having it there. But it's their choice, and I respect that. It's just that's something that for me has always been kind of, because I'm like, if I'm really got to get into this game, it's going to be a commitment, unlike just playing through a different game.
I don't think the games would be special though if there was easy mode, because I think a lot of people would just use easy mode, and like Ben said, I think it would take away it. Some people will bounce off of it, like you're bouncing off of it because of difficulty, but I think the reason they're so popular is this difficulty is the big draw of the game.
It isn't
not just because it's hard. No, it's not because it's hard.
It isn't the hardness of it for me.
No.
It's the time investment as opposed to playing another game. Because I don't have a problem with hard games. Like, I just beat Horizon on the hardest difficulty, turning off all the sliders.
Is something like
it's like for me, I don't create that. Like, if I'm like playing a game, if it's getting hard, like, sure, maybe sometimes I'll turn it to easy, but it's kind of trying to get through it.
No, this is something we talked about last week, I think. Like with Horizon, I turned all the enemies up to story mode difficulty because I wanted to feel like a superhero just going through there. Uncharted, I do the same thing. I turn it. I play on super easy
And
mode
that's your
because I
and
just
that's your
want to
right.
blast
Yeah.
through it, and I want to feel like a superhero, and I want to destroy everybody. Even Spider-Man, I do the same thing because I don't want to be hitting these enemies 50 times. I don't feel like Spider-Man. I don't feel like Nathan Drake, like James Bond or whatever, you know? But with Dark Souls, these are the games that, and I feel like I'm wasting my time when I go through Uncharted and I'm just dying over and over and over again. But for whatever reason, with Elden Ring and Dark Souls, Soulsborne games, I feel like my time is not wasted for whatever reason. Like the other night, I spent 2 hours going back and forth between two bosses. And I mean, for some reason, I just don't feel like I'm wasting my time. I mean, I do to an extent, but I feel like it warrants my time. Like the game deserves my time. I don't know.
I think it's part of that is like the reward structure that the game has built and the fanfare around surmounting difficult obstacles.
Yeah.
So that when you eventually clear the hurdle that you're bumping up against after 2 hours, it doesn't feel like finally I got through that fucking annoying part that I kept dying in. It feels like, yes, I felled this incredible monster and I finally did it. I achieved something. Right?
Mhm.
It's all about like what your frame of mind is. It's not, yay, I can't wait to get to the next cutscene. It's kind of the way I play the Metal Gear games,
Yeah.
even though I like those games. It's not, yay, I can finally get to the next cutscene. It's this is a story of me overcoming adversity, and so to whatever extent you are lessening that adversity, you are robbing from that experience of ultimately completing these challenges. So I mean, like, I don't think every game needs dynamic difficulty that players can choose. I get this idea that these games are so acclaimed and everyone sings their praises, and some people just they try and they can't get it. It doesn't click for them. There are plenty of games that are like that. There are plenty of games that are less accessible than these games, and a lot of them are on PC. Just to throw that in there.
Hey, and not for reasons of difficulty, but for patches and bugs and plugins and all this other kind of crap you got to get.
Yeah, but not just that, but like also depth. Like any 4X game, you're gonna have to read manuals of explanation for how to play the hell, and anything in like in an Age of Empires game or
Elite Dangerous is one of
RTS
them.
game.
The space games, like Star Citizen, all these kind of games like that too.
So there are plenty of games with big barriers to entry where you have to come to grips with what the game wants from you. And
Destiny's one of them too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't think the moment to moment gameplay in Destiny is comparable, because even small things in the Souls games are big challenges to somebody who is new to the experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, is it possible for everyone to have the intended experience while being able to select into something less mind-numbing? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. I think the challenge is part of it. I think the challenge is an indelible part of the experience.
I think you made a really good argument for this, because I mean, I definitely get what you're saying. It's definitely an artistic expression that they are, and they have made the game with that in mind, that this is a challenging experience. This is meant to be put a lot of time into this, but the payoff that you're going to get from this is going to feel a lot better than a game where you can just kind of adjust your difficulty however you go. So I get that. I definitely get how you're saying that. And that's how you're saying too, Cole.
Yeah, at the same time, like we've been saying it, this is the easiest Souls game, I think, hands down, and it's also the most
Approachable.
Yeah, approachable in the sense that like when you're stuck on something, there's plenty of other things to do, and there are plenty of like techniques that you can adopt and builds you can spec into that make combat much less challenging. So we talked about this more in depth last pod, and Matt Bliss is in the comments. He joined us last week. He's talking about growth mindset and learning from failure, and the reward structure in Elden Ring and in the Souls game is all about growth mindset, and like approaching problems in a way so that you get better over time, and you learn about them, and you become better at the thing rather than just like moving on to the next phase. That's I don't think like you have that special sauce if it's just easy to get through everything. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And I think while I don't fully agree with everything about that, I do understand what you're saying, and I think it is a good conversation. But speaking of things that are hard to get through, Sony announced a state of play for last week. Did you gentlemen have an opportunity to watch this event?
I did. I probably forgot it.
Oh my God, man. That could have been a press release. All those things could have been press release. This screamed contractual obligations, in my opinion. Was there anything out of here that you all got that maybe was substantial? I have a couple things. There was a couple things I saw that I thought were pretty interesting.
What was it?
One was, and this is not a good thing, that Gundam game. I was watching a stream of it. And it's not, there's not anything good with the show. It's just a funny comment. You're watching that Gundam first person shooter. It's like, those are some big ass hallways. Like they're like in like a room. Like that, like you would think that like they would only be fighting in like planes or like outside or in space. Yeah. Like no, they're in like room. They're like multiplayer, like
still arenas. A corridor shooter.
Yeah, like so that's a bad thing. But that was something I thought that was pretty funny. And then the other thing that I saw that was interesting was Valkyrie Elysium, which was the centerpiece of the whole show. It was the last thing we saw. That RPG that we saw. I was like, you know what? That looks good. I hope it comes to Switch. You know, I don't think I want to play that on my PS5, but that looks pretty interesting. I love anime games. I'm a Duke of anime, so
right.
I like the anime-ness of the show, but besides that, and of course the Returnal update as well. You get co-op.
Yeah, that looks decent. It'll be interesting to do co-op.
It looked misplaced in here. It looked like I liked it, but it seemed I was like, that doesn't everything else. They're talking about a lot of anime. We're talking about, you know, basically the Square Enix Capcom show. And then that just randomly dropped in there. But it was a pleasant surprise.
I thought about Unrelenting Games. So Returnal is another one example.
Yeah, I was about to say the best thing to come out of there was the Returnal co-op.
Yeah.
And I never beat Returnal, so I know which one of you guys beat it.
I did, and Alfredo did.
Okay, so Thomas, we're gonna have to do this co-op.
I think we should.
On Ben.
I think we should.
It would be fun.
That is our goal for the next couple months. Get through Returnal.
Yeah. So many games.
Also, and I don't know if it's just me, I played through the Ghostwire Tokyo prelude thing.
Yeah.
No. I'm getting a little sour on this game.
Is this the game that Ben picked against?
Was that the game? I need to call Ben out because I remember Ben said. I said something about it's looking pretty good, and Ben said, "Oh no, it looks terrible. If anybody claims that, I'm gonna bet against them." And then I look on the draft and I see it's on his sheet.
No. You guys are thinking of Forspoken.
No, I'm talking about Ghostwire.
I bet against Ghostwire. I never bet against Ghostwire.
You said it. No, you said it. You're like, I remember this. You said whoever gets that, I'm gonna go against them. And I was like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to bet against it. and
I
I bid like $7 on it.
Because I remember the night that you saw that Ben had done that. Me and you were playing Destiny, and you were like, "Oh shit, Ben has picked up Ghostwire Tokyo. He played
and
me. He played me
he had
perfectly.
he
He got it
had
for
to have,
$1."
and he had to have bid me more because I bid I think like $4 or $5. So you had to have outbid me. I was like, man,
I was just trying to fill out my roster.
I got. But honestly, look, it's not I'm not sour on it because of that. But playing through that prelude, I was like, I should not be falling asleep right now. I'm not tired. Had coffee. This should not be putting me to sleep. It seemed, and look, it might be just, and look, visual novels are hard to pull off. You know, I play bad visual novels, play good ones. This is definitely a bad one to me. And the story just wasn't interesting. And I hope that doesn't ring through to the actual game as well. Most games don't release visual novels before the game. So I'm giving it a little break on that, but this kind of soured me. I've gone from pre-ordering this game to waiting till reviews.
That's a bummer. I also downloaded the visual novel because like the visuals of this game are interesting to me, and I feel like there's something there. But every time I see gameplay, I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna play, and it just seemed like the game had a lot of production issues. So I am really uncertain about how this game is going to land. I don't recall being as down on it as I apparently was.
I gotta find the podcast. I remember I saw it. I was looking at it again. You were like, yeah, whoever gets I'm a bid against them. I was like, let me keep my mouth shut.
Yeah,
I got a bid open right now. But yeah, that's I'm good to hear that you are more up on it now, but I'm a little more down on it. So I think we're about even now. Are you interested, Cole, at all? I know it's not really your flavor.
Not at all. I'm not interested in first-person shooters at all, besides Destiny.
Fair enough.
Or first-person games.
So never Grand Theft Auto never Grand Theft Auto first person?
No.
Never?
And not until it's in VR, then true first person.
That would be pretty great. I would take any of the Grand Theft Autos in VR. It wouldn't have to be
San Andreas is coming, remember? San Andreas is coming in VR to Oculus.
So many games.
That's true.
I forgot.
When's that supposed to happen?
We don't know. I guess they said 2022, but who knows?
Matthew Bliss says Dukes better save this chat. We're writing great essays. We're writing a great essay here. There's a lot of chat in the chat right now, and I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody watching, supporting us. We really appreciate that. Was there anything else in the state of play that caught anybody's eye? Great. Nothing for you. Sony, do better, please. Or if you're going to I wish they have a different let's let state of plays just be this and then call the big announcement something different. Because I don't like the state, because there are state of plays that have fire. I've seen them. And I feel like it's been a while. I mean, I remember the last one, the core game was Little Devils Inside. So the last one wasn't that much better either. So hopefully they can, hopefully the next time we get some great announcements, some great updates on the games we know we have coming. But of course, let's get to our next topic. And we've been talking a lot about open worlds. And so we just kind of want to take a moment just as a tribute to all the great developers developing some of our favorite open worlds. Let's go around and say what some of our favorite open worlds are and what makes an open world for each of us as individuals. And since it's my topic, I'll go first. Kind of my favorite open world in any game, period, is New York City and Spider-Man. Just is. Because to me, an open world succeeds when you don't think about the algorithms going into it. You don't think about any of the things of how this is working. It's just working how it's supposed to be. New York reacts exactly how I would expect it to react when Spider-Man's there. When I'm in the skies, it looks fucking beautiful. I see on my radar that there's crime. go get the crime. When I'm on the ground level, I can go up and swing back, or I can walk through the streets and greet all the good people because I'm Spider-Man. I think that it's so simple. It's not trying to do a lot. Like, obviously, it has the side quests, it has the main quest and everything. It's a very basic open world, but what it gets right to me is just so perfect. And yeah, that one's probably my favorite. But I think an open world succeeds where you can completely get lost in it. And that's how I define what I think is a great open world.
That's interesting. I don't know that Spider-Man would be on my list. Even though I really love that game, the way you are kind of above the fray. I mean, quite literally swinging above the concerns of the people in the city detaches me from it a little too much. There's plenty to do. There's plenty to see. Yeah, you can walk in the streets among the civilians, but there's not a hell of a lot of reason to.
It's just a palate cleanser. You go in the streets, get some high fives. Also, Matthew Bliss in the chat said something really why it really did spell out why I love it as well. I'd argue a good open world is when you can want to run the world without exclusively using the map to get the job done. That's Spider-Man in a nutshell for me, because I can count on my fingers how many times I use fast travel. Because why?
Yeah, I disagree though. Like, I don't think that makes a good open world. I think that has actually very little to do with the open world. I think you could have a much more poorly constructed open world and still not want to use fast travel if the traversal is good. Like, that has more to do with how you're moving through the space,
the mechanics.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a part of what makes an open world, the traversal. I think the traversal through the open world is an important part. I don't think every game has to have great traversal to be a good open world game, but for me, some of my favorites have a great traversal system.
Yeah,
even like something like Grand Theft Auto. Like Grand Theft Auto, I don't think has fast travel. Could be wrong about that.
It does. The taxis, you can take a taxi and you can skip to your destination.
Right. But I never do it.
Nah, no one ever does, because driving's so fun. It's the best driving in any game ever.
Exactly. It's like, I think of some, like maybe Skyrim, I guess, would be one I like that. I can't say I like the traversal, but for me,
Bethesda games all have pretty poor traversal.
Yeah, but even Breath of the Wild, like, I love just climbing all the way up to the top of a mountain and then sailing down with my little glider. Like that to me, like, traversal for a lot of open world games is a big part of it for me. I know that it can vary for people.
And it's a world that feels like believable, and and a world that's very well crafted too. Like Grand Theft Auto. I mean, you walk through that, you walk through the city, and it is every street corner, every alleyway. It's all handcrafted, and it's huge, and it's believable because the pedestrians act in certain ways and they react. Like, to me, they do it way better than anybody, because just the emergent gameplay of just standing on a corner and like a fire breaking out, a wreck, or like the kind of wonky traffic physics which create these crazy scenes that happen.
Yeah. See, it's the traffic. No, the traffic physics in GTA to me are unrivaled to a point where it's laughable.
Oh, it's unbelievable. No one else compares.
I can't think of a thing, because there are a lot of GTA clones, but all of them have that traffic. Because people were talking about Cyberpunk, they're making fun of it at the beginning when like somebody parked the car like on the highway and you just saw the entire highway was just in shambles, or it's like it did not know how to. So it's like, but that's a lot of games like that. Like Watch Dogs is the same thing. Like there's a lot of games that don't tackle that aspect really well. I don't know what Rockstar does over there, whether it's witchcraft or whatever it is, but they have
7 years to develop a game. That's what it is.
That's true. Yeah, that's
what else it is too. It's like unpredictable events that happen. Like Red Dead Redemption 2. You'll be riding your horse, you get off, you're hunting, all of a sudden a bear attacks you, and then all of a sudden you're dying and the bear gets attacked by a lion. It's just these crazy, unpredictable things that happen. Or
even
the semi-scripted.
Even the semi-scripted stuff in Red Dead, where you're like riding along the trail and like someone's on the side of the road. Oh no, my wagon broke down.
Yeah.
You get off to help them, and then it's a bunch of bandits, and they kill you.
And see, Horizon actually did that really well too. Where once I got to the part of the story I was telling you about, there were times where I was just running through the open world, and I just said, you know what, I'm not going to turn my map on. I'm just going to run around.
Yeah.
And dynamic stuff would happen where it would be scripted though. It felt dynamic at the time. Like I'm just running through and like I see these people getting attacked by robot dinosaurs. I'm like, all right, let me help them out real quick. Help them out. And then it's like, oh yeah, we got this whole thing. We got a whole group of people over there. Can you help us out? Then it's a quest that pops up. I'm like, I was just running through the world. And it's like, of course, that was probably always gonna be there. But it was the fact that like it felt organic. And
Yeah,
obviously
and
all these games are functioning off of algorithms. All of them are, but the best games to me do a good job of hiding that and make it
yeah,
feel
and
organic.
that's what Elden Ring is good at
Mm.
because there's no icons. Like in Red Dead, when some of those events happen, every now and then, GTA started this. You'd see an event would happen, and a blue dot would appear on the map, and it was
Yeah.
called a Stranger Things or something. There's some weird little thing. But to me, the special thing Grand Theft Auto is when just random stuff, or Red Dead is when you can't really tell if it was scripted or not because some
Yeah.
things do happen, like. There'll be like a random cowboy fight or something, and I don't know that those are necessarily scripted. Sometimes when you're going through a town, I'm sure they are to a certain degree, but another open world for me is Sea of Thieves, and that's
Mhm.
because of the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the other players. You can play a whole 3-hour session, not encounter anybody, or you play a 3-hour session and you get into all these big battles with other players. They're trying to steal your treasure, stuff like that. I think it's incredible open world.
And Matthew actually says something interesting. Minecraft for best open world. That's an interesting pick because Minecraft is especially depending on what mode you're playing, because obviously there's the creative mode as well. Like that game, if anybody wants to argue that's the greatest open world game of all time, I really can't argue with them.
He also mentioned Just Cause, which to me
Yeah.
is an incredible game, and it's very
Especially
fun.
Just
It's emergent
Cause
gameplay.
3. Just Cause 3, I think. Or 2. The one that was on PS3.
Well, the
That
bad
one
thing
I
is that
love.
they just don't perform good. I played Just Cause 4, and it was just awful performance on PS5. I think I played it on,
To be fair,
and it
that game
looked
is
terrible.
To be fair, that game is doing a shit ton in terms of physics.
I know, yeah, I know, it
Like
is.
it, maybe to a detriment, to be honest.
Yeah, to me, Just Cause is an example of a game that doesn't have a very good open world, but has fantastic traversal through the world. So
Mm.
that I don't, when I played Just Cause 3, I don't think I ever used fast travel because like using the wingsuit and the jetpack and all that stuff is just way too fun.
Yeah.
But it's not like a very interesting open world.
Also, I don't know what these, because all the JRPGs, like maybe not something like Persona, but something like Dragon Quest, Shin Megami Tensei, like these games have like open world elements as well. And it's like I see that. I don't think that was a real big thing for a bunch of JRPGs back then. They kind of were more linear, especially like during probably like the mid to late 2000s. I started to see that change where they're becoming way bigger now, like to the point where now Pokemon is essentially an open world game. And I think that while I wouldn't classify them as open world games, it does speak to the fact that a lot more games are, in genres in general, are embracing open world elements.
Another thing too are games that feel alive. Like
Yeah.
Horizon does a very good job of this in the cities, but when you're outside the cities, to me, it doesn't feel alive. It feels like you're going through fields and they're just dropped machines everywhere, which is still a great game. But like to me, Red Dead and GTA, again, they just feel so alive. And so do MMOs, like Final Fantasy 14.
Well, yeah, and I feel like with GTA and Red Dead, since they're not RPGs, I feel like their attention to detail is going into the world 100. Like that's where a lot of the attention to detail is going.
But you
Where
still have the pedestrians and the traffic and stuff like that.
Right, stuff like that. And I mean, that's all adding to open world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main focus. And while Horizon, I think, is obviously doing as much as they can, I think it's more so an RPG. I feel like that's where the attention went, in my opinion.
Speaking of RPGs, I think if I had to choose, my favorite open worlds are, my favorite is probably Fallout New Vegas.
It's a good one.
It's just one of my favorite games. Like I said before, this is why I don't necessarily buy what you were saying about traversal kind of making the open world, because Bethesda games have bad traversal through their open worlds. I mean, it's just, there's no two ways to put it. It's just bad. You just walk everywhere.
And for me, it's an important thing. So I would
Yeah.
never put a Bethesda game on my top like open worlds. Like
Yeah,
I
we didn't
like
mention
them.
The Witcher 3 is great too.
Yeah. But the
Yeah,
thing about The Witcher 3, as I've been playing Horizon, I'm like, I really had to ask myself, like, what does The Witcher 3 do better than this game Horizon I'm playing right now is doing? I really had to really think that through, like, because I feel like the first Horizon didn't have enough side quests at all to even like justify that question. The Witcher 3 was a pure RPG with a shit ton of side quests to do, really expansive main quests. I think that games have learned from Witcher 3. I think that we're going to see a lot more games that are doing what The Witcher 3 did a lot better. And I think Horizon's the first one. So I can really say, I can tell they did a lot of their changes based on how good The Witcher 3 was. Even though I know Horizon Zero Dawn was released afterwards, obviously they started developing Horizon Zero Dawn, I assume 2013, like 20.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
So this was the first development cycle they had with The Witcher 3 already out. And just playing through this new Horizon, I'm like, I see where they really expanded the side quest. So this almost feels like as big as Witcher 3 did. Because that was the main appeal to Witcher 3 for me. Just the amount of quests you can do and the storytelling in each quest.
Yeah, to me, the reason I would choose New Vegas is a similar reason that Witcher 3 is up there for me in terms of best open worlds. Not, and again, like not necessarily like the best open world games, but best open worlds in a game. It's kind of a different question.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of that to me comes down to the coherence of the world, sense of place, like rules that need to be followed so that the world can feel like it really exists and that people really exist in it, in something resembling a society, right? This is something that I think the Fallout games do very well. I think The Witcher 3 totally excels. But especially Fallout New Vegas, uh even though this world is not particularly buzzing with activity the way that GTA is. I mean, it's a wasteland, right? It's a wasteland in a desert. So it's double empty. That this is actually something that Elden Ring does very well as well. The moments of quiet contemplation between events are very important in games, I think.
Mhm.
There are plenty, probably too many moments of quiet contemplation between events in Fallout New Vegas. And these moments let you take in your surroundings a little bit more critically. They require you to have a more keen eye as to what's going on, and it allows you to get sucked into the place. And when something rips you out of that, it's all the more interesting, rather than there just being a background level of noise that kind of you jump from thing to thing. Some of my most fond memories, it's weird to say, but like some of my most fond memories playing games are the quiet moments moving from objective to objective in Fallout, and then like stumbling upon something that I never expected. Coming to Novak for the first time and seeing like the dinosaur statue in front of the motel, having just walked through the wasteland, this cracked highway for what felt like miles, but probably only took a minute and a half or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this coherent sense of place. And one of the things that I really respect New Vegas for is it's not, even though it's a game that's published by Bethesda, it's made on their tools, it's not a go anywhere, do anything. you don't get to march straight to Las Vegas and walk right into the strip. There are tons of obstacles in your way to get there that put you on this circuitous route around the map and then back up to Vegas. And then when you get there, you still can't get in because you got to pay 2,000 caps. And who the hell has a scratch for that by the time you get to the gates? All of that is in service of this world doesn't exist for you. It's already here. Everybody was already living. You just showed up. So if you want something, you got to take it. We're not going to give it to you. That's a great place to be. I feel like that is a great place to be in a video game. As much as I like the power fantasy, the Skyrim kind of, and everything leads into the power fantasy in Skyrim. Even though there are plenty of like difficult places you can't go immediately in Skyrim, you're still the Dragonborn, right? You can still do anything at the end of the day. You don't feel that way in New Vegas.
It's kind of like Elden Ring too. You're the Tarnished, and you kind of got to prove yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Elden Ring even more so. I mean, like, Elden Ring rubs your nose in it where it's like, we're going to make it, incredibly difficult for you to reach your objectives.
You're wanting me to play. You're making me want to play. I've never played Fallout 3 or New Vegas, and I'm waiting for Switch. Gosh dang.
Must play games.
I'm Thomas can't hear you.
I'm muted. Yeah, no, you're gonna add another game to the list of games you gotta play.
Well, I'm gonna wait for Switch, which I think will probably be like a year away or something.
I've been waiting on that to come to Switch. I don't think it's gonna happen at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna come. I don't think it will.
I feel like it would have happened by now.
Yeah, it would have.
I feel like that game. You would think it'd be easy, but there are a lot of moving. I don't know what does Obsidian own any rights to the game at all?
No,
It'd all be in
they just developed
Microsoft's court. Yeah, it'd all be in Microsoft's court now, and I'm sure there is a lot of other things.
There have been rumors recently about Fallout New Vegas too, and the discussion is apparently happening within Microsoft because I mean it's all in house now. Bethesda, Obsidian, the whole shebang.
Yeah. They should make it happen.
They could do it. I think they really should remake Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Those games are pretty rough around the edges. I think they need more than the Skyrim double remaster treatment. But yeah, if they made New Vegas too, oh boy.
That would be crazy. No, that would be absolutely crazy. I feel like that would get a bigger pop than Fallout 5. Like, yeah, that would be insane. So I think we've done a great job in kind of encapsulating what open world means to us. It's a very broad genre for sure. Because open world, I mean, that fits. Like, there's so many genres that utilize that, but there's a core, just fundamental, just feeling of an open world and what makes a good one. I think we did a good job kind of exploring that. Thanks for the comments, everybody, for that. And of course, we get to our last topic, which is a doozy to say the least. On a sadder note, for sure, there is currently a war going on in Ukraine that is, obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in Ukraine going through it. But just on a video game level, there has been a suspension of sales amongst all the big companies. I don't know about Steam.
A lot of companies.
Yeah, but a lot. So chief among them, Sony and Microsoft. They have suspended sales of their consoles and any new games in Russia. And yeah, that's led to a big backlash in terms of Russia allowing piracy, which is something I never thought I'd see in my life. I never thought I'd ever see a country legalize piracy, but here we are. What are y'all's thoughts on this? I thought this was super interesting.
It was kind of shocking. I mean, I can't believe they did this. It's ridiculous.
I'm honestly, when I saw the headline, I was shocked, but not like super shocked, because I'm like, that is kind of the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Like, that does make a lot of sense. The only thing I put a message on our Discord, I was the first thing I thought of was, does that mean none of this stuff's going to come back to Russia, even if all this stuff is over? Because if you allow piracy, you're basically allowing the theft of IP. You're basically allowing all that. So it's like you're kind of rubbing all the companies there. You're gonna allow there's gonna be affected by this. You're gonna rub them the wrong way. And so that's what I took away from it. I'm like, sure, that might be cool, but does that mean no entertainment media is gonna be sold in Russia?
I think when sanctions eventually end, when the conflict eventually ends, how long that takes, I mean, who knows?
Let's say it ended tomorrow. Let's say it ended next week or tomorrow. That's just
right. Yeah.
Hypothetically,
sanctions would end, and then I think you would see a reversal of this. And I think specifically the language suggests that it is not suddenly legal. They are just saying that they will not enforce the law in this case. That crimes related to piracy and IP theft and that kind of thing are not going to be punished. So it would then be easy for them to reverse and say, okay, now they will be.
Matt asked the important question: can companies who own what is being pirated still sue the pirates or individuals who have pirated? No, they can't, because it is legal in the country.
Yeah, they have no legal recourse.
Yeah, not in
Russia. I was about to say
we
have a master of the law right here. He can break that
I wouldn't say that, but,
I definitely was about to lean on you in terms of like, because I didn't think you could do that. Because if Russia doesn't prosecute, then no company can sue.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my thought comes in, where it's like, are these companies about to just stop doing business in Russia even after these sanctions are lifted? Because I feel like legalizing piracy is a huge step. I feel like that's a huge step in terms of like stepping away from commerce with Western media.
Yeah. I think we will. I mean, like, I have hope and faith that we will eventually see some, like, a return to normalcy, and what that will take, I don't know. But you're right in that this is the logical next step. Games companies have en masse said, we will not do business in Russia, and that is going to come at cost of sales to us. And that's because we're taking a stance, in this conflict. And
can I challenge that really quick? Not to interrupt you too much.
Sure.
So I just don't believe that they're taking a stance per se. I believe that it's not, and I feel like it's a PR thing for sure. Of course, that's what all these companies. But I also think it's the fact that they're not on like, they've been cut off financially off the global marketplace. Like Swift, I believe is what they're called, the Swift, the global banking. They're not listed anymore. So for these companies to actually do business, it would be an arm and a leg to even attempt to do business. So I think that that's a big factor into why this is happening as well, because and I mean, also saying you're against it, it's going to be a win-win for you, because it's a PR dream to be on the good side of this as opposed to being on the negative side. But I do think it's also because doing business in Russia right now has been complicated greatly by the government. I just want to put that out there.
That's true. I mean, I guess you could say it could be in question whether the company's true motive is to take a stand. But I think reading at face value the statements that these companies are making when they are officially saying we are no longer doing business in the country, and not all payment processors have stopped, dealing in Russian rubles. It's not like the currency is entirely shut down. It's just so many individual, the sanctions prevent a lot of companies from doing business in certain ways, and then a lot of businesses themselves are coming out and saying we're not.
Right, and I'm just saying it takes more effort to do business in Russia now than before. So why put that effort in if it's going to be a PR nightmare? If you agree to do that. That's all I'm saying. I think that it's both of those things. I think it's like it's harder to do business. We can technically still do business, like you said. There's payment processes are still in place, but why? Like why? Like that's going to be a PR nightmare if we go around that. I think that's a big part to play as well. So I think that leads on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned Valve has not taken any sort of stance in this way, right?
I said I wasn't for sure. I wasn't for sure.
I don't think they have. I think they're still, for all intents and purposes, they're still doing business with Russian consumers. So I haven't seen any scrutiny on Valve in any big way. All I've seen is positive remarks about companies that are doing things, not negative, responses about companies that aren't.
That's a good point.
So I don't necessarily agree. So there's an article here on gamesindustry.biz that says games firms opposing Russia are cutting off a $3.4 billion market. I think some of what you're saying here, Thomas, about there are already being such incredible complications in dealing with Russia now, like making the decision a lot easier is true. I mean, like, it's not going to be a $3.4 billion market this year, even if everybody was accepting, Russian money.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's making it easier for them to pull out because people aren't going to be spending that much. Their ruble or whatever like, just devalued like crazy. Yeah. They're not going to be spending much discretionary income.
And look, I'm a leftist. I believe that all companies are evil. So obviously my political worldview gets a little bit in there, but I just don't. It takes a lot of like suspension of belief for me to believe a company is like, oh my God, a war? It's just that I don't think companies thinking that way. I think they think this is going to be a PR nightmare and I don't see Valve like promoting the fact that they're still doing business in Russia. Like they're not. We stand with the Russian people. They're saying that. It's just keeping it on the low.
Look, it kind of aggravates me when it's politically correct to do something, and then all these businesses just start piling on and doing the politically correct thing because you don't know.
Oh, I hate.
They really
it.
mean it, But then again.
I never forget, Cole. I'm glad you mentioned that.
I know what you're about to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
When they all posted the blacked out screen and all that stuff. Is that what you're about to say?
It wasn't even that. It was when Activision said, of course it's Activision. Of course, when Activision's like, we're going to work to get rid of the racial slang in Call of Duty. I'm like, I've been playing Call of Duty since I was 13 years old, being called the N-word at least once a month. On this thing, like you choose now, like now it's okay to put the funds. So I just don't believe these companies thinking that way.
I don't either, but I will say, I hate to fault them for if they're doing something that's right, even if they're too late. Do we fault them because they're doing it too late? You know what I mean? Like
I don't fault them. I don't fault them.
So I will say that too. I see both sides of it. Like it aggravates me when they're doing something just to do it, just because they're trying to be like everybody else and look good. And then, but then again, it's good that they're doing it, I guess too. So
definitely not bad. Definitely not bad.
Yeah,
definitely not bad.
I would err on the side that it's good to see them taking a stance. Probably.
Fair enough. I guess that goes to my other question. As far as piracy goes, like, do we like? I know you said, Ben, that these companies are just going to come back. Is that a fact? If Russia has legalized piracy, I feel like that. Like, if they didn't legalize the piracy, I'd agree with you. It's the fact that they legalized it. I'm like, that is. I don't think you can just like you can maybe walk that back, I guess. But like, are these companies going to feel spurned that you just allowed their citizens to steal millions of dollars essentially?
Yeah, but it's like this is where I would agree with you that like the money is going to matter a lot more.
That's true.
Than any hurt feelings.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So
not hurt feelings per se, but just just that's to me that's just bad business for like the country to allow that.
Yeah, but like, bad business is better than no business. And
true.
The company said no business. So Russia said bad business. That's like this is the tit for tat that's happening right now. And the reason that I think it's all going to go back to normal eventually, depending on what happens with this conflict and, assuming these sanctions ever lift, which I think they will at some point, depending on what the resolution is. When the sanctions end and business can continue, then it's in everybody's interest for money to start changing hands again. It's in the company's interest and it's in the government's interest. The whole reason these companies are not doing business in Russia, we talked about this last time, is because every transaction gets taxed and it goes into the pocket of the government that's waging what these companies see as an unjust war.
Right.
And which I agree with. I should be careful there to say that, like, I'm not trying to, like,
very careful there.
For all our Russian listeners out there.
what these companies and me see as an unjust war. I don't know about Thomas. I don't know about Cole, but
yeah, we
at least
agree with you.
I feel that
it's I'm hoping we don't get any crazy person in the chat. Yeah.
Shit.
Anyway, so I mean, like, I think it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Somebody's at my door.
No worries. Once money can start changing hands again, everybody's going to want money to start changing hands again. It's not a matter of everybody is going to be able to pirate everything immediately, right? There's still going to be plenty of people to sell even existing and old games to in Russia when this is all done. And everybody's going to want to sell their new shit too. So
yeah. It's going to go back. Even we're going to be buying gas from them again and all this too. It's all going to go back to normal.
It's true. It's probably. Yeah. Unfortunately, actually. But
unfortunately, yeah.
So I don't get random knocks on the door this late without a text message. It was somebody selling car insurance. I didn't know people go door to door selling car insurance.
Wait, is it 12 o'clock at night there?
Yes.
What? Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Dude, what?
I don't.
Somebody knocks on the door. Somebody car insurance at this time.
Part of me thinks they might have just been like crazy or something. It's 12. It's 12 o'clock.
I think they were casing your place, dude. Nobody sells car insurance at 12 a.m. They were knocking on the door to make sure nobody was home so they could, scope you out a little bit.
Well, I'm well protected, so it's all good.
That reminds me. I moved into my house. Let me tell this quick story. So I moved into my house and we get a knock at the door. Woke all our kids up. My dog's going crazy. And it was someone coming around doing ADT. It's like an ADT door-to-door salesman. And he was like, I see you don't have an ADT thing in your yard. And I said, man, we're having a rough time right now. The dogs use woke the kids up. We're not interested. This guy got physically mad, and stomped off my porch and shook his head, stomped off my porch and stomped his car. Didn't even tell me bye or anything. And I got aggressive with him. I stepped on the porch. I was like, what are you doing? I never get like this. I'm such a happy-go-lucky person.
You should do a controller.
I was yelling at him the whole way. He gets in his car and he's doing this at me and stuff. Such a weird situation.
No, I was about to, the thing is, I thought it was one of my friends because I do have friends who will randomly just drop by without texting me, and I always tell them don't do that, but people still do it. But car insurance midnight? I don't know. Oh, that's a new one. That's a new one.
Yeah.
But back to the bad news. Back to the bad news. I mean, I think, assuming this conflict ends, I believe that we will get a normal, but I think it's going to take longer due to this piracy thing. I feel like companies are going to be that policy needs to be reversed immediately if they're going to even, because if with that policy in place, why would anybody do business in Russia?
Yeah, I hear you, but the policy is going to go away as soon as companies start signaling that they want to come back to Russia, because Russia is going to want to invite them to do business.
Yeah,
with them, and it will not be the end of piracy, of course. Piracy is already a big problem.
Hey, if anything, it's going to introduce a lot of new people to piracy.
It might,
because they're all trying to figure out. They're calling their hacker friends and their computer geek friends, that want to come over and show them how to start doing stuff illegally.
Now, look, I think there's a place for piracy in certain. Well, piracy is not the right word to put it. Because for example, like if you're trying to play a video game that you own on, your GameCube, but there's no actual way to play this game, like theoretically you can download that and it's not illegal. Am I correct?
No, it's still illegal.
It's still illegal even if you own it?
If you own a disc, a GameCube disc, you have the right to play that disc in your GameCube. You don't have a right to play it anywhere else. That's what the purchase entitles you to. That's the license that you've purchased.
Go ahead, Thomas.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, do we have a reminisce? Because I have a reminisce that's very similar to this. Did y'all say y'all had one?
I did, but if you have one that's specific to this, I'd love to hear it.
Well, if you want to do just two real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So I grew up on. You guys are a little younger, but I grew up during the time of Napster, like when Napster first came out.
Yeah.
I was right. I was right under it with LimeWire.
Yeah,
and I remember LimeWire,
Well,
but like, like going from that time when you had to go to the store, physically buy a CD, or if you want to record a song, you had to put a cassette tape in the radio and record it that way. And then to like all of a sudden downloading on Napster, Napster was unbelievable. Like I just can't. It's such a weird time. Such a weird time. Like we'd literally sit there and just download like the entire Tupac discography, like in the afternoon.
Hey, that's not a bad thing to download.
And I don't know if y'all remember this, but when I went to college, we had all apartments and dorms. You were all like linked in the same network and stuff, and you would have I forget how did it work. You could find people in your college that would have like the Beatles album or whatever, and you could just, I guess it was the same thing, but for some reason I'm thinking it was something different. You could download it from them and it was faster or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, it would be like off the local servers, like the internet, the college internet.
There was always like the one guy that everybody would just be downloading everything from. He was the one guy on the bottom floor.
I was the guy in high school because that was my little hobby. I was like, I want to collect all the music in the world. I was
and burning CDs. Like, y'all, that's a pastime. Like, we used to go to Walmart and you get the spindle of CDs.
And
and you would burn them and you would write on it like for your friends. So your friend, like girls would always decorate these discs and they would decorate them and draw hearts on them and they would give them to you and stuff as gifts or, to their boyfriend or whatever. It's such a cool time, really was. Because there was still the physical aspect of it. There was a physical aspect of like burning the disc and giving it to somebody and having to play it in your car. So it still wasn't totally digital yet because you downloaded them all, but you still put them on media and passed out.
Yeah, and you can say that streaming. You can say that piracy brought about streaming because streaming was the answer to that.
Yeah, I would say that streaming killed piracy because it's just more convenient to stream than it is to download it.
And so maybe video games are going down a similar path. Yeah, because you do see game streaming becoming a lot more present. You really do see, like, I know Sony does do it, but it's not great right now. Who knows what Spartacus is going to do? Xbox has already been diving into this. I don't know. Like, I don't want that to be the reality we live in, but I don't know. Like, I don't like the idea of any state legalizing piracy. Like, that just does not sound good. And I don't like it in terms of what it means for the rest of us who enjoy. I mean, even though I don't like, I wish that we could still have things on disc instead of have to download everything. I don't like the idea of, because whenever stuff becomes more prevalent, like piracy, we tend to get, stuff like streaming come about that replaces, the need for that. So we'll see what happens with it, with video games at least. But enough about the bad stuff. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to reminisce. It's been a while. I think it's been like 2 months. So I'm going to take you all back to 2002. 2002, I don't know what games released that year, but there was only one game that mattered to me, and that was
Vice City.
Not even close.
Metal Gear Solid 2.
No. Oh man, I'm gonna let y'all down then. Damn. NBA Live 2003. I love the NBA Live series. Not currently. Currently, EA has decided to completely shit on this franchise and release half-ass releases every single year. I don't understand it. But back then, these games were like my mana.
Wait, real quick. The NBA Live is still a thing?
I don't think they've released one since 2020, but they've been a thing, yeah. Like they've
2K
released,
just destroyed. They started destroying them in like 14, something like
the
that.
point. There's a history. So there was a game called NBA Elite 11. It was supposed to be like the replacement to NBA Live for EA, and it had Kevin Durant on the cover. I was very looking forward to that game. And then 2K announced we got Michael Jordan on the cover, and we're gonna put Michael Jordan's, which to me, that's the best 2K ever made. That 2K was insane. Yeah. But they're like, yeah, we're gonna put all Michael Jordan's best games. You can play as Michael Jordan in these crucial moments, and that killed NBA Live, or what was gonna be called NBA Elite. It killed it because the NBA Elite demo came out and it was terrible. But no, back when I'm talking about 2002, this game was the best thing going. And look, 2K was still out back then. I just thought that Live was a superior product. It just had everything to me. Like it had a great franchise mode. Just that was the game that truly made me fall in love with basketball, where I'm not just playing as Shaq and Kobe and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. I'm playing as Raja Bell. I'm playing as Bruce Bowen. These are role players. Like I really started to learn who these players were. And that's the one thing I think sports games, they do for me at least. They allow me to get to know some of the players that don't get the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, oh, I had a 30-point game with this random rookie. I was playing online, and then I'll, see him in a real game, and I'll notice him from now on, even though he's averaging like 1 point a game. I'll still like remember, oh yeah, like I played him in 2K. He has potential, hopefully. And Live was the first game I really experienced that in. And so shouts out to NBA Live. Your memory is forever seated in my mind as, I remember when that was just a great video game series. EA's really shit the bed with that, but the memories are always going to be there. Any sports games awesome. You all ever fell in love with at all?
Madden 2005. I was a competitive Madden player. I went and did Madden Challenge. Actually,
that's cool.
I think I told this before.
You did. Yeah, no, you did. I do remember that. Yeah.
So I played D'Angelo Hall, which was the cornerback.
Yeah, you did tell us that. Yeah,
in the Falcon story. And I used to play with Michael Vick, and me and my roommate, we played Madden like I play Rocket League. We would play Madden every night, and I was the offensive coordinator, and he was the defensive coordinator. And it was when, PlayStation 2, it was online games. The matchmaking was good. There was relatively low lag in Madden 05. This was Donovan McNabb was on the cover. This was the year after Vic. Vic was on 04.
That's the one that had like the story mode, right?
Actually, no, I'm sorry. 05 had Ray Lewis on the cover. And no, it didn't have story mode. This was PS2 days.
You know what?
This is when Madden was good.
No, the one with Donovan McNabb, that one had the story mode. That's 2006.
And they introduced the vision cone. So that's how they countered Michael Vick. So like when you drop back with Vick, he had this little bitty sliver of a cone. Like Peyton Manning had the whole field open, and you could throw accurate passes over the field, but Michael Vick had this little tiny sliver of a cone, and you had to rotate it around. So that's how they counteracted his speed.
Madden 2004 was like, that was the Michael Vick game. Like,
yeah, and I'm a huge Vick.
He couldn't lose. Like I remember
he was unbelievable.
When anybody played with him, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I would roll out, and like the corner of the linebacker would be matched up with my my running back rolling out, and if he would drop down and go after Vic, you just lob it over his head. It's like touchdown with this running back. Or if he stays, then you're getting a 40-yard play with Vic. But I was big into that game, and I would be offensive coordinator. My roommate would be defensive coordinator, and we won like 85% of our games. It was incredible.
Oh, that's so
that
great.
Game.
Ben,
Madden used to be good. Do you remember how big it used to be, guys? Like when a Madden released, it was as big as Call of Duty.
It's still huge.
It's not like it was though. At that one time, it was like
Yeah, no,
zeitgeist
you're
every
right.
release.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
Um,
quality went down. Quality
yeah,
went
it
down.
did.
Like
It did.
it's not the
Absolutely.
same anymore.
Mm-mm.
Ben, any sports games you
Yeah,
have?
I
any memories
remember how
of?
big Madden was, and Madden 07 is really the only sports game that I really got into. I had it on PC, and I played it quite a bit. I think I still have it. I have it on my shelf next. Oh, maybe it's
Who's
back
on the
there.
cover? Do you know?
No, I don't. I
Was that
can't remember.
Vince Young? Ah,
I
Maybe.
can't remember.
Vince
Maybe.
Young. No, I think he was 08. I know Brett Favre was 9 because 9 had the rewind feature,
Mm,
which was the
Mm.
end of Madden, in my opinion.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a lot of experience with racing games aside from that, though. But that's kind of a different
Oh, F1.
different angle.
Need
A
for
little
Speed
bit,
Underground?
a little bit F1, but yeah, the Need for Speed games were mostly where it
Underground
was
was
at for me.
great. God,
Yeah,
or Underground
and
2.
Hot
Which one?
Pursuit too was
Oh,
another one that I
yeah.
played a ton of.
Yeah.
Carbon was mine on PSP. I
Mm.
put so many hours in that game. And then obviously, I mean, last year, Forza, that might be the best sports game I've ever played. Like on
I
just
might
a
play that.
pound for pound basis, like that game was incredible too.
I do have to give a shout out, guys, because I am
Mhm.
the Duke of Rocket League, and I do think that's a sports game, even though it's not an official sport.
Yeah,
But it is competitive.
definitely.
One of the best racing games ever. Have y'all ever played Excitebike 64?
No, I never
What's
did.
that
God,
on?
it was unbelievable. Nintendo
Oh,
64.
I'm an idiot.
Have y'all ever played Mario 64?
Hence the
What console is
64.
that on?
I don't know why I thought that was a year. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but yeah. That's
Oh, man.
Excitebike. I think I've heard of that.
There was one on NES, and they remade it for this N64 as a motocross game, and it was the only motocross game that had like great physics, and it was just, man, the racing was so good. It was incredible. But anyway,
Oh man. Well, that has been a great reminiscence. Before we go, Ben, shouts out to your corner. I never seen the little box in your corner with the is those rugs or yoga
yoga
rugs?
mat.
Yeah.
It is the yoga mat.
Is that new? Has that been there?
Shout out
That's
to
been
the
there.
box.
It's been there. Shout out to the box.
It looks
to the
it
yoga
looks
box.
it looks so picturesque right now. I'm sorry. It looks
It
really
does, man. Yeah, that room is
Perfectly
well
posed.
decorated.
right. Oh man. Well, you
What a
already
good,
know
what a nice room there. That's awesome.
what a nice room. What a nice room.
Shout out to the
remember
box.
because I remember when you first had it, it was definitely you're still putting things together. It's definitely turned out.
It's come
super
together a bit.
nice, for sure.
It is. I think mine's gotten progressively worse, but
Mine's in its worst stage because I'm in the process of like renovating my house. But
yeah.
in the end game now, just like this podcast, I want to thank everybody for listening and watching the Dukes of Gaming podcast. Again, you can listen to us on your favorite podcast service. Watch us on YouTube. Watch us live on Twitch if you want to leave a like, if you want to leave a comment for us to read live on air, come support us there. Leave a like, a review, a comment, anything to help support the show. You can even email us at therealdukesofgaming@gmail.com. Have your question read live on air. We'll be coming at you more next week with some hot takes. Hit the bell as well to get notifications on when we release our latest videos to YouTube. And we post everywhere, every week. So make sure you start your week right with the Dukes of Gaming. I bid all thee farewell.